You're listening to Pitch Me on the Heart Bandits Network. Now, here's today's pitch.
Hello and welcome everyone to Pitch Me. We're your host, Meg and Ted. We're so glad you could be here with us today. Before we get started, we're going to tell you a little bit about what we do. Meg and I pitch entrepreneurs, fellow podcasters, and family businesses to production companies and assist them with landing their own television show. So if you or someone you know thinks you have the chops to have your own show, hit us up. We'd love to chat with you. Now, Meg, how do they go about contacting us?
Yeah, so you can find us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Pitch Me the Podcast. Pitch Me the Podcast. There's a "the" in there. And you can also always reach out via email, which is pitchmethepodcast@gmail.com. Always looking for new stories.
And we will be, well, I have this on my mind, we will be updating on Facebook when things come across our desk that particular production companies are looking for. We'll keep you apprised of that. So check us out on Facebook. Is there anything you think I left out, Megan? Anything you want to say before we get started?
I don't think so. I'm super excited to hop into today.
Well,
so let's just do it, Ted.
I know. I've been ready to have a go for sure. I know. So here we go. This episode is going to be titled, "You Don't Need Sight to Have Vision." Today's guest has been navigating obstacles, landmines, and countless other hurdles for the majority of her life without any end in sight. She does this with the grace and the skill of a ballerina whose dedication to the art of being in service to others is unparalleled. Her accomplishments range from being a top producing real estate agent in Southern California to working with Good Morning America, Good Morning Oregon, Oregon News, and Entertainment Tonight. She is the host of both a TV and a radio show called Living Full Out. And I believe there's a rumor that they're going to name a hurricane after her because she is such a force of nature. Please welcome to the show, Nancy Solari. Nancy,
oh my gosh, what an introduction. And you know what? It would be my honor to have a hurricane after me.
Let me catch my breath here. I'm glad you didn't have more accomplishments. I'd be long-winded.
Oh, you are so kind. Thank you very much.
Well, you gave us a lot to work with. Megan and I always like to work on the introductions together and just get something that's going to be befitting for the person. And this seemed to work well for you. So again, Nancy, we've been wanting to speak with you. We love you. We love your show. Well, I guess that's a wrap. What else is there to say? Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, right. Thanks for being here.
Hello, good night.
Well, Nancy, there's a lot to unpack with you. I mean, you're kind of we could do this probably for a month straight and still not get to the bottom of you. So I'm just going to get into it if that's okay with you, unless you have something you'd like to say before.
No, go for it. Any question you want.
Your theme on your radio show, from what I've listened to, from what we've listened to, it's all about that little inner voice. When did that become really important to you? And why is it seems to be a focal point when you answer your callers about making sure that inner voice is positive reinforcement?
Absolutely. So, that inner voice is a lot of times a hunch. It's kind of the hairs on the back of your neck, right? But it can also be that burning passion in your core, in your heart. And so you have to trust all those elements. If you feel like something seems just off, doesn't look right, doesn't smell right, doesn't feel right, or if inside you're willing to take a gamble on yourself. If you were in Vegas, you'd say, you know what? I put myself on red, right? And so you have to trust those instincts. And so when it came to relationships or when it came to my career, those instincts, those, are you my people? Are you not my people, right? Because navigating different industries like the entertainment industry, there's good and people who are toxic. And I think that's true for many industries. But, it's really about trusting that guide, that instinct, that inner voice. And then most of all, being willing to quiet the noise so you can hear that voice. We're inundated with calls and TV and conference calls and webinars and great shows like yours and mine, right? But at the same time, you have to quiet the noise so you can really hear that heartbeat, so you can really feel those hairs on the back of your neck. Otherwise, if you're moving so fast, you're going to miss the ability to make those right decisions.
I was thinking about when I was listening to your inner voice, I thought I've said things to me internally that I would never say to anyone, even my worst enemy. I've sometimes have screamed it out loud, pounding on the steering wheel too, sitting in the LA traffic. But that's another story and another show. But in all seriousness, if you don't have that inner voice as a positive reinforcement, the detriment that it causes, sometimes it can't be undone. What do you think, Nancy?
Well, and you said it just right. The power of our words. I tell people all the time, like a listener will call in and they'll say, you know what, Nancy, I'll try. And I'm like, let's do that again. How about I will, I can, rather than try, or I'm going to hope I lose weight, let's do it. And also, it may sound silly, but I literally, if I have a negative thought come in my brain, I say, go away. I literally say it out loud, go away. And it's my way of saying you're not welcome here. You got to take your power back in your mind. Mm-hmm.
I knew a lady, she was a therapist for the vets, and she said, we do have control over exactly what goes in out of our minds. And I was thinking for a minute, well, no, we don't. And she convinced me we absolutely do. And I used simple tenets, and it definitely helped me along the way. I quieted the negative Ted and introduced the positive, and it's made a difference. And that's recently, if I'm being honest, within the last 6 months. And some of that is really due to two women in my life. It would be my girlfriend of 14 years. How she's managed to deal with me is beyond me. She should get whatever an award there is for putting up with someone like me. And Megan and I have never met. She's 3,000 miles away, and I wouldn't be here without her either. So I think once I changed my thinking, it's helped my relationship. I know that with my girlfriend. And I doubt Megan could have tolerated me a year ago, in all honesty. So I do know the power of the inner voice, and that's why I wanted your thoughts on it.
Well, and I think that's great. I do wonder how many TEDs there are, though. I can't wait to hear more and more shows. but honestly, you're so right. And the people that we surround ourselves with is very important. Now, I'm not saying that rich people are the best people. I'm not saying that successful people are the best people. I'm not saying the best looking people are the best people. But people with a purpose are really good people. People with empathy, people who will kind of work through a problem with you. Those are good people. And so you have to kind of assess, are you hanging out with toxic people that don't believe in you, that kind of have put you in a box, that have said, well, you've tried 20 things, this one won't work out either, or moochers or whatever that is. And I believe in change. I love change. I love it. I mean, I'll be honest, we had a team member recently and we just kind of came to an agreement. It really wasn't working out. And I was like, all right, time to move on. Let's find that new teammate, right? Because if you hold on to something that isn't working, it's like beating yourself, hitting that brick wall, right? Or beating yourself up. Why do it? Life is meant to be experienced. Life is meant to be fluid. And at the end of the day, down the road when I'm 100, I'm sure I'll be a different Nancy than I am in my 40s, right? So embrace change. Let life unfold.
I want to segue to someone who I think is probably a very important member of your life. Tell me about Lionel.
Oh, well, man, I have negative news to say on that one. Lionel recently passed away, but Lionel Richie was my service dog for many years. He was a Jack Russell Terrier, and everything that Lionel Richie is in his music, that dog was. We would literally slow dance and in the living room, and he was there in the early, long hour days of living full out, and loved Lionel. But again, when I say I embrace change, I mean it. 1 month after losing Lionel, I said, you know what? I love being in love, and I love loving big. So I adopted Charlie. Now, he wasn't a service dog. He's just a 10-pound Chihuahua with a big heart. And then 6 months later, I got Frost, a 65-pound yellow lab who is a guide dog through and through. We did all of our training. And I am like the most happy fur mom ever, because I know I got my little angel Lionel looking out for me. And then I got little 10-pound Charlie and little, I shouldn't say little, big, 65-pound Frost. So
who thinks he's a lap dog, right?
Yeah. But again, that's where we can't hold on to things, I mean, Lionel would not want me to do that. So yeah, love big, people. Go for it.
I love that.
Well, which begs the question, why do you have a service dog, Nancy?
Well, so I have a condition which is called retinitis pigmentosa. I was diagnosed when I was 16, and actually I have two older sisters. We all three have it. We're literally the three blind mice of the family. But we were told, at young ages, all in teenage years, that we would be blind by our 40s. And I'm in my 40s now, and I'll tell you, I have a guide dog because I can't see faces, not really well or not really at all. Everything just kind of blends together, the features of the face. And, I can't see edges. So when you see strips on the edge of stairs, those are for people like me, where if we have any hopes of seeing the contrast, we know there's an edge. Or what a lot of people don't realize is, like, on the phone, on the number 5, there's always a dot on even a cell phone. And that dot is where people like us, because then our fingers can do the walking and we know every number from that number with the dot. And so, going legally blind due to RP has been heartbreaking in some ways, but remember those instincts, remember those voices that we have to listen to. That also has become really clear when losing my vision, because when I meet somebody, it's not what they look like. It's not what they do. It's the sound of their voice. It's the warmth of their hug. It's all the fabric of who they are outside of what I would visually see.
Let's go back to that inner voice whenever you first went blind. Did that inner voice change? Was it angry for a time being, or was it just got acclimated really quick and you went on about your merry way, so to speak?
Well, denial is every girl's best friend sometimes. And so I would go with that. I was 16, I had my license, I was, doing my thing. But I will say that my middle sister and I, we did kind of have a little powwow. We said, what if they're right? And so we took off in a couple months after we got the diagnosis. We saw 26 countries in Europe. I've gone back to Europe since, and I can't see the Eiffel Tower now. So I'm so glad I saw it when I could. We saw the Vatican, we saw the Colosseum, and we saw it when we could, because although our vision wasn't awesome, we had contacts and all, we could see much better. I took Japanese for 7 years. My grandparents said, if you study a language, we will send you there. So that same middle sister and I, we had studied Japanese. We went off and we were exchange students in Japan. And so I really took traveling as my thing. I also knew that, gosh, if they're right, I need to get my degree, because it's going to be super hard to go to college if I can't read books and can't see the chalkboard and whatever else. So I think what it really did is ignited kind of that bucket list, that priority list. That's what the inner voice said to me. It said, move, go fast, And I guess I'm just the same tenacious bugger back then as I am today.
I think your prime objective is just to make the rest of us look really bad, Nancy. That's not bad. Yeah. I've had it with her, Megan. Let's get somebody else on here. I just can't.
No, Ted, we can't all have a six-pack like you. I'll go online.
How did your parents take this with you and your sisters? That would I'm just thinking, if I were a father.
I cannot imagine. I can't imagine.
Megan's got twin daughters. So,
wow. Yeah. It was actually, they went through the, gosh, it's my fault or our fault, but it's really not their fault. It's a gene thing. And well, no one else in our family had it, just the 3 daughters. It ended up being that the chemistry of their genes together replicated it 3 different times. If they had gone around had a fourth kid, it would have happened too. But I'll share with you, though, for anybody out there dealing with a medical condition, before my dad passed away, he's been passed away now for 8 years, we did get his blood drawn, and my mom did, and my sisters and I, we all did. And we did find that faulty gene. It's called Cerkyl, Cerkyl, I believe. And it's commonly found in Spaniards. We're not Spanish, but it's interesting because at some point when gene therapy does come into play, we're ready. Game on.
Yes.
That's excellent. That's fantastic. Wow.
Yes.
This next question, not that it doesn't sound like anything's unattainable for you, but what dream do you have that you feel like you may not be able to reach just because of maybe monetary proximity? Is there anything that you feel like you might not be able to do in this lifetime?
Well, I
No,
really,
that's what you're going to say. I know.
no,
No, of
you
course
believe it
not,
or
you
not,
idiot.
I believe it or not, I would love to drive again. Now, some people would say I was never the best driver to begin with, but I did love driving. I mean, I recently went to Disneyland, and even driving the Utopia car was a little scary because I couldn't see the person in front of me. But I would love to drive again. And I see my sexy self in a beautiful convertible. So something to shoot for, and then, even watching people go to space. I mean, gosh, how great would that be if I won Powerball? What an experience. But again, unless I can seeing all the elements of the stars and space, I wouldn't be able to appreciate it without visually seeing it. So, or even seeing faces. A lot of times I remember people how I remembered them years ago.
Yeah.
No one's got
Sure.
gray hairs or wrinkles in my world. Everyone's just themselves. But so I would love to see faces. So it's not so much where I would go, like, of course, Australia's on my list and stuff, but it's more about the faces, driving again, getting some of the independence back. And then, of course, some of the extreme fantasies like space. You need vision to see those things.
Wow, Nancy. I know you were a realtor. We kind of had this chat offline when I first spoke to you. You were a real estate agent, top producer in Southern California, and that's no easy feat, even with sight. But that's not exactly how you were, huh? You were a little bit challenged. Had you already lost your sight at that point?
Actually, I was already in real estate. I was probably about 4.5 years in. And, I started kind of trying to do what I could. Like, I knew that it was too bright at sunrise and too bright at sunset. So I tried to make all my showings midday when the sun was the highest in the sky for me to drive. But then the lines on the road started to disappear. And then I knew I just couldn't drive anymore. I mean, I knew I was going to hurt myself or hurt someone else. So I then learned the bus system, and I would show these $1 million properties, and I would show up, and I would get there really early, turn on every light, memorize every step, and sometimes fall and miss a step, but pick myself up and just have it all really ready to go. So when my clients showed up, they got the best of Nancy, they got the best of the house. And then they would leave and they would drive off in their luxury automobile, and I would turn off all the lights again. And then I would walk back to the bus stop and then take my next bus to my next showing. And sometimes, taking anywhere from 2 to 12 buses in a day showing properties. And you better believe it, that glass of red wine was really desired at the end of the day. It was, in some ways, sitting on that bus really broke my heart, because it just showed how hard I had to do to keep up with that career. But on the other side of the coin, that time on the bus, I took to learn. I listened to podcasts. I talked to people. I could study different materials. So it was my time to grow and learn. And so in some ways, life just works out.
Was it a gradual process with you losing your vision, or did it come in spurts? And what was the transition really for that?
Yeah, pretty much every 2 years. So again, diagnosed at 16, but giving up driving was 24. So I'm in my mid 40s now, so I haven't driven since then. And really every couple years, it would take another jump. And, it was just so weird seeing like facial features go away, or edges to things go away, or it affects color blindness. Like I can't really see the word stop anymore, but I do see the shape of the sign. It's not red to me anymore, but I know what red looks like. I know what, I've seen red before. And so, you just try to fill in what you remember things looking like. And that's kind of the new reality. And again, for some people, they prefer it because they're like, oh my God, I don't want you to see me and my hair's not done. I'm like, good news, can't see anyway. So.
I just think about your callers, and I've listened to several of your shows, like I say, and I hear people calling in with anxiety or stress, and they think they can't do this or that. I mean, I want to hear someone say they can't sell real estate right now. I dare someone to say that, because look at you. How do you deal with that, Nancy, when people call in with their problems that are nowhere near yours, and you still keep that positive, sympathetic, and genuine concern? I don't know how you do it, because I don't know that I could.
Well, it's kind of that philosophy, right? If we all had glass houses and we could see everything happening in everybody's house, right? But we don't. And so sometimes when I only have so much time with someone, they're only actually asking what they can really get out of their heart, and that, like when your throat is kind of bundled up and it's kind of swollen and kind of warm, and so I know that they're nervous to talk to me, and so they come out with as much as they can. But I also know that behind that question are many more questions. And so I empathize with that. And, heartbreak, loss, it's all kind of the same. Like losing my vision is about as heartbreaking as someone losing the love of their life in a tragic accident. Or, thankfully I'm a confident person, but I appreciate those people who look at themselves in the mirror and see every flaw possible, and maybe they wish they were visually impaired, and that would bring them more peace. So I think when I'm on the phone with somebody, I have to really just kind of be with them and, stand beside them. And it's not about comparing whose wound is worse.
And that definitely comes across in your show. This is going to be my last question before we get into the whole television show with you, okay?
Yeah.
What kind of attributes, characteristics about yourself could you not live without?
Humor, number one. And humor is big. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. And you also, especially as somebody with a disability, I think most people with a disability do find a humorous edge, because it really takes away the dun, 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 dun. Oh, I'm so sorry you're blind. I'm so sorry in a wheelchair.
Right.
It really does help. But then also, I think that I was given as a young girl, I was kind of grew up with some domestic violence, and my sisters both competed with their weight and had eating disorders. My mom got cancer, and breast cancer. And, I just remember kind of being that listener, that glue. So I think I was already a therapist at age 10,
Right.
So I think sometimes you have these born gifts. You're gifted at listening. You're gifted at cooking. You're gifted at IT. And so you just have to really grab hold of those gifts.
No argument here.
Mhm.
Well, then let's segue to what kind of show would the Nancy show look like? You already do TV. I haven't had a chance to see your TV show, but it's a variety show, right?
Yeah, and so the TV show is a hoot, and the TV show is funny because with TV, with radio, it's not visual. Although we do tape our radio shows, but it's not visual. With a TV show, we have an earpiece so that I can, kind of hear what's coming. But a lot of times it's ad lib. It's not quite Saturday Night Live, but I'm not going to be able to read a teleprompter.
Right.
And a lot of times when, I don't know if you've ever seen like new talk shows come out, right, in September, and you see the host is kind of stiff and they're reading their prompter and they're trying to get it right. That's where I think that reality TV or shows like, again, Saturday Night Live or, ad-libbing, it's more heartfelt. It's not, every word is not said right, but it's more genuine. And so that was really the chemistry that worked for our show. It wasn't scripted. It was kind of a lot like the radio show that you've heard, and it's bringing in that TV element, which was really important because sometimes with certain guests, like we had this guest on our show and she was born with no arms, but she flies planes, and she outrigged her plane with buttons where she pushes to fly, to take off and to land with her toes. And
Wow.
I wanted her to show the audience, how do you tie your shoes? How do you put on your, a helmet? Because she does a lot of bike riding too. And she was able to do all these visual things. Or I had this other guest who, lost 250 pounds, and he brought in his 52-inch pants compared to like his 32s. He lost that much weight. So some things you just visually need to see.
Where is this played? Where can people find your television show? Because I wasn't sure myself.
Yeah, no. So right now we are on hiatus. So I would go to livingfullout.com. Just click on the TV show tab. There's episodes waiting there for you, and what we want to do is, keep the conversations going. I admire all talk shows, radio, TV, you name it. And I love the meaning behind your your show here, right? You're inspiring people to get out there and entertainment and find their original voice and who they are. And I think that can be in whatever outlet makes sense for somebody, whether that's radio or TV or podcast.
Right, sure. So are you looking to maybe expand that? Do you want to do something different? Just kind of give me a sense of what you would like to do.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I love TV. I love that aspect. And so I want to keep that going along with the radio show. And it's really about finding guests. Now, I will tell you that there's a lot of people out there with a lot of stories, and some are legit stories and some are not. You have to vet your guests, because if somebody's going to come on and share a story of, having a condition, that you have to make sure that, they really have that condition. It's amazing. There are guests that I've done prep calls with before where I've asked them for, what is the name of your condition, and they don't know, and nobody doesn't not know their condition name,
right?
And or I'll do a call with somebody and I'll ask, so what happened when you got bit by the monkey, and if the story only lasts 2 minutes, was it really that traumatic? I don't know, So as an interviewer, as a TV host, as a radio host, you have to make sure that you really vet your content before you put it out there. And that sometimes is the biggest part, because you just want to make sure that, you're putting things out there that are real.
I had a guy reach out to you yesterday. His name is Keith.
Mm-hmm.
And are you aware of him yet, Nancy?
I think I got a whisper, those whispers, right? Yeah, I think I got a whisper that he reached out. Uh-huh.
He's a cancer patient. I think he's in remission right now, but his cancer had cancer, according to him. I mean, it was just that bad. And what I've been mulling over, Megan and I have talked about this a little bit, is I would like to try to do something for people who are terminally ill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The host would have to be someone who's empathetic, has a copious amounts of sympathy, and I'm looking at her right now.
Oh, that is possible. You might just see
I'm wondering if
the
television show that you're telling me, that might gel with our idea.
I would absolutely love to talk about it further.
I tell you what, we'll have an off-air discussion and we'll work some things out. But I just wanted to see if you would be open to that kind of show.
Well, I absolutely would. And I will just say that I had the honor a couple of years ago. We interviewed a gal who was terminal, and she was 42, and it was her Christmas wish to make her community have Christmas again. It had got kind of taken away due to politics and this and that. And she did it. She raised money. They had trees on every corner. Everything was lit up. There was fake snow. And she passed in January. And so she literally got her wish, and then she passed. But I remember when I was interviewing her, I said, "Are you scared?" And she said, "No, I just feel gypped, because now that I know what the meaning of life is, my time is less." And so I think people who are terminal have great lessons to teach us. I mean, I think of her often, and I was so grateful that her husband, emailed me to say that she had passed. And so, yeah, those are my people, the terminally ill people, because they are game on. They are living full out with every breath they have.
Absolutely.
See, the guy that I sent your way, he's interested in having a show of his own. But I don't think he's the right host. I think he's the perfect patient, but you would be the right host for this. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, well, you just connect with me after, and we'll powwow about it.
Yeah, when Megan, when she 86th the recording, let's continue talking if that's okay with you, Nancy.
Yeah.
Well, Megan, I've been running my mouth for a while. What would you like to ask her?
What caused sort of because I know like your story, obviously you don't necessarily know mine, but I too went through like an event that sort of changed my mindset. Was there like a moment that you can pinpoint sort of when that shifted for you? Because I can pinpoint it to the second that like, I was like, okay, like I know it's important. I know I'm going hard. I know this is the life I want to live. I know that this is the the road that I'm on. But I'm always curious with other people who sort of have that moment, like what it is about that moment that you remember.
Well, it's interesting when I think about going blind. You would think that would be the one, or financial stress. You would think that would be the one. But on a personal note, in my life, I've also had 5 miscarriages. And I remember on the 5th one, we had a heartbeat, then we lost it. And I remember walking out of the doctor's office, and the receptionist was like, "Nancy." And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Your dress is inside out." And I just remember thinking to myself, well, isn't my entire body inside out? Like, can you see my guts? Can you see my intestines? Can you see my heart? Because I don't even feel like I'm wearing clothes. I mean, I might as well be walking up naked. And the thing is that was such a game changer for me, because I had to decide if every one of those babies were going to be a loss, or how I was going to shift that to a positive. So they are my heaven babies. I've got my fur babies on earth, and I've got my heaven babies in heaven.
Absolutely.
And I named them all, and I will see them one day. And so you have to decide how you're going to take a loss and how you're going to transfer it into a positive.
Absolutely. I love it.
I couldn't be free with you. I couldn't be free with you, Nancy. You're paused. There's nothing that I could. I can never come to you and say, "Nancy, I'm having a horrible day. This sucks." And
you can still come to me, Ted. I got 2 shoulders right here for you to cry on.
Well, I don't think I have anything I could possibly add to this interview, Nancy. You nailed it. I mean, when it's said, it's said, and you have said it.
Well, thank you so much. And, the only last tidbits I will, give your community here is I just want them to truly live full out. The time is now. We don't have tomorrow. There's no guarantees on that. You can't get back yesterday. So, live big in the moment, and, write your story and keep turning the page. And, that's what you got to do.
And tell them one more time how they can find you and reach out to you.
Yep, they can go to livingfullout.com, and there's ways to reach us on there, phone, email, you name it. Of course, they can listen to the radio show. We actually have a 24-hour station. We have an app on the iPhone and Android, a Living Full Out app. They can hear it that way. They can reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. And truly, if somebody has an inspirational story, cancer, terminal, miscarriages, domestic violence, whatever it is, we would really enjoy hearing from them. It's not about like exposing their story, but it's about a teaching tool, because somebody may be in the audience who's going to hear their story and be like, "That's me,"
Yeah.
Perfect. Megan, why don't you bring us home?
It's amazing. Nancy, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story. I know that it's going to speak to so many people about living full out and living in the moment and knowing that all we have is today. And that really speaks to me as well. So thank you so much. Guys, if you're looking for us, again, we are at Pitch Me the Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're looking to pitch us a story to feature here, it's pitchmethepodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.